a quick video on the practice test. Number 1, 2, 3, and 4 all kind of go together. Both using these functions up here. I'm trying to draw on them. Let's see here. Using these functions. First one says f of x plus g of x. I'm just going to add those two, and they both have the same exponent, so I can just add the coefficients in the front. Negative 4 plus 8 is positive 4, x to the 3/4 power. That's all you got to do. Number 2 says subtract, and make sure you subtract right order. It says g minus f. So I'm going to take the function g first, the 8x to the 3/4, and subtract out the negative 4x to the 3/4. I hope that's a bunch of minus signs, which is really the same thing as adding them. So you get 12x to the 3/4. That's all you have to do there. Number 3, bring it back in the picture. When you do number 3, it says f of x times g of x. So I'm going to do negative 4x to the 3/4 times 8x to the 3/4. When you multiply your coefficients, negative 32. When you multiply your x's, you add the exponents. Okay, so if you add those, you get 6/4. But 6/4 reduces down to 3/2, and there you have it. So the first three, not that bad at all. Number 4 says g of x over f of x. So I'm going to put function g, which is this, over function f, which is this. Now, because my x's are the same, they just cancel out. All that leaves me with is the 8 and the negative 4, which is negative 2, and that's all. So 1, 2, 3, or 4, just pretty much simple operations with the two functions. Number 5 says find the domain of the following using the above functions. Number 5 says f times g, which is what we did in number 3. So I'm looking at this one. Here's how you do that. What you do is you look at the two functions at the top. They're both 3/4 power, which really means this. Like that first one's really negative 4 on the 4th root of x cubed. Okay, bottom is the root, top is the power. Because it's a 4th root, you have to have a positive number in there. Same thing for g. They both have to be positive. So the domain for both of those is this. They both have to be positive numbers. So then look at your final answer. So when you do f times g, I'm looking up here at the two domains, and then look at your final answer when I did f times g. And I got this right here, which still has a square root in it, which also has to be positive. So the domain is x has to be greater than 0. Okay, so look what they both have in common, and look at your final answer, and that's all you got to do. Now, the next one, f, says f over g. We didn't do that up there, but if we did f over g, it would look like this. And what would happen is those would cancel again. I would get negative 1/2 because my x's would cancel, but you need to domain how you set it up. So I'm looking at this one and this one. All right. There's still 4th roots. Even roots have to be positive. So it's going to be x is greater than or equal to 0. But now I have an x on the bottom in my denominator. If you have an x in your denominator, it cannot even equal 0. You cannot have a 0 on the bottom. So I'm going to change it to just to x is greater than 0 because you cannot have a 0 in your denominator at all. Hope that makes some sense. Let's keep going. Number 7 says g of f of 6. Remember how we did this week? We took the 6 first of all. I'm going to take that 6 and plug it into function f, which is right here. So it's going to be like f of 6 is 2 times 6 minus 5. If you work that out, that's 11. Then I'm going to take the 11 and plug it into function g. So you're kind of working backwards. So I'm going to do g of 11. Plugging that in, I get 11 squared plus 1, which is 122. I guess 122, that's it. That's your answer. All right, second part says f of g of x. When you have one like that with no number, you can take the inside one, the inside function, function g, plug it into f. So I'm taking that x squared plus 1, putting it into the x in function f, which is going to look like this. 2 times, instead of the x, I'm putting x squared plus 1 minus 5. Work that out. It'd be 2x squared plus 2 minus 5. And 2 minus 5 is negative 3, so there's that one. Number 9 says find the equation of the inverse. Remember inverse, take your x and y's and switch them, and they get y by itself. So I'm going to switch the x and y's first, just like that. Then I got to get the y by itself, so I'm moving the 12 to the other side, and then I'm dividing by 6. If I divide by 6, I get x minus 12 divided by negative 6. Guys, there's the inverse, all there is to it. All right, number 10. 10 says find the inverse of this. So the same thing I just did. It's the exact same kind of problem. Switch your x and y. So I'm putting the x where the y was. Put in the y over here. And I'm trying to isolate the y, get the y by itself. So I'm going to move the 2 over there. Divide by 5. X plus 2 over 5. And then because it's y squared, I got to take the square root. So I'm going to take the square root. X plus 2 over 5. By the way, because it started with f of x, remember the symbol for inverse is f to the negative 1 power of x, which means inverse of f of x. That also said graph both of those. The first one, and you can just punch it in your calculator as far as I'm concerned. You can punch it in your calculator, go to y equals and punch it in. You're going to see something like this. If you look at the first one, you're going to see a parabola that goes, similar to this. That's the first graph. And then when you graph the inverse, it's a square root graph, remember, and it's going to look something like that. So that's what your graph's going to look like. And really the first graph just said greater than 0. I should not even graphed that part right there, because all it was really asking for was the greater than 0 part, which is the positive part to the right. So there it is. And the cool thing about that graph, which we did make a big deal of the other day, when you graph inverses and you draw the line y equals x, like 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, it splits your graph right in half. Pretty cool how that happens. All right, number 11, consider that function, determine if the inverse is a function. So what I'll do, I'll take my calculator, I'm going to punch that graph, I'm going to punch this into y equals. And when I do that, the graph looks something like this, like it's a steep line that goes like that right there. And you got to ask yourself, does it pass the horizontal line test? And it does. So yes, it does have, it is an inverse. It says, is it a function? Yes. And this says find the inverse. So again, take your x and y's, switch them, get the y by itself, and you get x plus 6 over 7. And there you go. All right, number 12 is what we did yesterday. Graph 2 times square root of x minus 1 plus 3. That one's, remember, the graph of a square root was like a sideways half of a sideways parabola. And I'm going to shift it right 1 up 3 using our gestures, remember? Right 1 up 3. After I get that, the key is the second point. Because there's a 2 in the front, you always go right 1. Remember, you always go over 1? That's a vertical stretch. So when I go right 1, I'm going up 2. So make sure I can see your second point right there at 5. And then the curve does that. That's what the graph is going to look like. Ask you for a domain. Don't need a parentheses. The domain is your x. And where your graph started, it started at 1 on the x-axis. So x is greater than or equal to 1. Your range is your y. Your y started at 3, so it's greater than or equal to 3. So there's your domain and range. Last page. 13 says graph without a calculator. It says a to the 5/3 power. Don't forget our gesture. Bottom is the root, top is the power. Bottom is the root, top is the power. So I'm going to do the bottom part first. I'm taking the cube root of 8. The cube root of 8 is 2. That still have the 5th power because the top is the power. 2 to the 5th power is 32. Got it. All you need right there, 32. All right, go to the last one here. Simplify that expression. It's got a cube root. Let me blow this up a little bit. It says cube root of 64 x to the 4th z squared. First of all, 64 has a cube root. It's 4. So I'm bringing the 4 out. Remember what we do. We divide our index into our exponents. 3 goes into 4 one time with the remainder 1. So because it went into it one time, 1x comes out. Because the remainder was 1, 1x stays in. And 3 does not even go into 2 at all, so I can't divide it all, so the z squared stays in. So guys, there's your answer right there, 4x on the cube root of xz squared. Hope that helps. Do good tomorrow. Study. See you then.